The rain had stopped only minutes before she stepped out of her private car. Eleanor Vance, a 42-year-old billionaire known for her icy composure and relentless work ethic, had returned to her mansion far earlier than anyone expected. She had cancelled a meeting after a strange, unsettling feeling pulled her home, an instinct she could not explain but could not ignore. As she pushed the tall glass doors open, sunlight spilled into the foyer, revealing polished floors, quiet halls, and an odd, lingering tension in the air she couldn't quite name. She took one step forward, and before she could call out for anyone, a low, sharp voice came from behind the staircase. "Shut up. Don't say a word." It wasn't anger. It wasn't disrespect. It was fear, urgent, shaking fear. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected moments, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Grandma's book. Eleanor froze. The voice belonged to Adrian Cole, her new janitor, a modest, quiet man in his late 30s who barely spoke unless spoken to. She had hired him only 2 months earlier, impressed by his politeness and the way he seemed to respect the house more than anyone else. Now he stood there in the broad daylight, his uniform slightly dirty, his breaths heavy and irregular, his eyes darting toward the hallway behind him. Eleanor's first instinct was confusion, then irritation, and then something deeper when she saw the tremble in his hands. The man wasn't threatening her. He was protecting something, or someone. In the mansion, normally filled with echoing calm, felt thick with suspense. Adrian slowly lifted a finger to his lips and nodded toward the living room. Eleanor took cautious steps, wondering if she had walked into a crime, an accident, or something far stranger. The air smelled faintly of paint and dust, nothing dangerous, yet everything felt wrong. Her pulse beat faster as she reached the corner and saw 2 small shoes peeking out from behind the couch. A child. Then a cough, soft, tired, the kind of cough that came from days of strain. Adrian exhaled sharply and stepped forward, revealing a little girl no older than 6, crouched on the carpet, hugging her knees, her face flushed and frightened. Eleanor's heart cracked open. Not from fear, but from the sudden shock of seeing a child in distress inside her home. The girl looked exhausted, her clothes worn, her hair tangled, her small eyes darting between the adults like a cornered bird. Adrian knelt beside her, whispering something gentle. When he looked up again, shame covered his face like a shadow. He finally explained. She wasn't trespassing. She wasn't a threat. She was his daughter, Mari. He had hidden her here because he had nowhere else to take her that day. Her school had closed due to an emergency. The shelter they stayed in temporarily had become unsafe, and the only person he could turn to was himself. He had been planning to leave early, pick her up, and take her somewhere safe, but everything had fallen apart faster than he could react. He thought he still had hours before Eleanor returned. He thought he could let Mari rest, feed her quietly, and leave without anyone knowing. But when the door clicked open unexpectedly, panic surged through him, and the only thing he could think to say, irrational, desperate, was that warning. Eleanor felt something inside her shift painfully. This was not the mess of an irresponsible man, this was the grief of a father who had run out of choices. Adrian confessed that he had lost his wife 1 year ago. He had lost his home a few months later. Since then, he had been working 2 jobs, trying to keep Mari fed, warm, and safe while hiding how close they were to losing everything. He said he never wanted to endanger his position. This job meant stability, hope, maybe a future. Bringing his daughter here, he knew it was wrong, but he had done it out of pure desperation and love. Eleanor didn't speak for a long moment. Instead, she looked at the child, frightened, hungry, and clinging to the last bit of comfort she could find. Eleanor remembered something then, something she rarely allowed herself to think about. Her own childhood. Her own father, who worked long hours as a driver and cleaner just to keep her fed. Her father who died before he ever got to see her succeed. And in Mari's tired face, she saw a reflection of her own past she had buried beneath success and wealth. What happened next surprised even her. She knelt down slowly, careful not to frighten the little girl, and gently offered her a small, reassuring smile. She didn't ask why Adrian hadn't told her. She didn't scold either of them. Instead, she simply asked Mari if she was hungry. The little girl nodded, hesitantly at first, then with tired relief. Eleanor stood up and told them both to follow her to the kitchen. Adrian tried to apologize again and again, but she stopped him, saying only, "Let's take care of her first." The next hour unfolded like something sacred. Eleanor cooked, not something extravagant, but simple warm food like she remembered her father making. The house felt different. Softer. Human. Adrian watched with quiet awe, still uncertain, still afraid of consequences. But Eleanor's voice softened as she spoke, and eventually she sat beside them at the table, listening to Adrian's story fully, deeply. By the end of it, her decision was firm. She offered him not punishment, but help. A safe, permanent place for him and Mari. A better job with better pay. A guest house they could stay in until they found their footing. She didn't do it out of pity. She did it because she recognized a fight she once lived through herself. And she did it because no child should suffer when she had the power to ease that suffering. As daylight warmed the room through wide glass windows, Adrian finally broke, silently, gratefully. Mari leaned against him, full for the first time in days, safe for the first time in months. Eleanor felt something heal inside her, something old and long forgotten. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Grandma's Book. Your support helps more people see stories that remind us of kindness, compassion, and humanity. Special request: comment "Hope lives here" if this story made you feel something. Eleanor realized that day that sometimes people hide not because they're dangerous, but because life has given them too much to bear alone. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can change the entire course of another person's life, quietly, powerfully, in the bright, forgiving light of day.